.com/Dean of Radio, or drop me an email, dean@deanofradio.com. Lots to talk about. Today is opening day in Major League Baseball, and I have to tell you this, I'm a Met fan, and being of Palestinian heritage and being a Met fan has a lot in common. At the beginning of each year, I think, this will be our year. And then about halfway through the year, I realize this year's going to suck just as bad as the year before. That's what it's like to be a Met fan. That's what it's like to be Palestinian heritage. And that's the truth. But first, we need a little humor. But, we could talk about the Barr report a little bit. And there's no Mueller report, the Barr report. I want to pivot to another issue at the top here. But first, we need some humor. And here is Colbert. And these are real poll numbers. And I think it's important. People wondered how much would the Barr report impact poll numbers. And he's actually reading here, what Colbert's reading is the average on 538, which I go to every day. It's an average of a bunch of polls. And these are the numbers he gives you at the top. So, and it's all real. We'll go to clip number 2, Matt.
Donald Trump's been living it up since the Barr report on the Mueller report totally cleared him of half the charges. And that is a huge boost, and you can see it in his approval ratings. On March 23rd, the day before the Mueller report was delivered, Trump was at 41.9%. But today, with the collusion cloud lifted, that number has soared to 41.9%. Voters were also asked if they had a more or less favorable view of Trump after Mueller's findings. 39% said more favorable, while 43% said less favorable. So what? Let me get this straight. After finding out that he did not collude with the Russians, people liked him less. I don't... What?
And that's all real numbers. I mean, if you go to 538, his average has not moved at all. Not even 0.01% yet. His disapproval rating came down like 0.3%. That's not even a percentage point. So nothing. And that poll he read is a reputable poll showing more Americans think less of Trump now after the report than they did before. I guess they thought if he colluded with Russia, maybe he was shrewd. I don't know what to say, but that's remarkable. And then here's Samantha Bee. And by the way, there's 2 other polls that are not in that joke from last night that we talked about. CNN poll, these are all real numbers again. 56% of Americans, 56% believe that the Barr report, it's not the Mueller report, has not exonerated Donald Trump or his campaign from collusion with Russia. That's what's remarkable. And nearly 6 in 10 Americans, nearly 60%, want to see Congress to continue the investigation. So they all get a sense something is awry. You can't ask us to unsee what we've seen or unhear what we've heard. It's just not the real world. We live in the real world. We know what Trump is. There's a reason why 64% of Americans, as is a poll 3 weeks ago, believe Donald Trump committed crimes before he entered office. They know what he is. You don't need Mueller. You don't need anyone. Americans are pretty bright. We get it. And then here was Samantha Bee, and I really love this. It's not as comedic as always, but she makes an excellent point. Something I've been saying as well. Clip number 1, please.
The Russian government was able to hack our elections and destabilize our democracy. The president chose an attorney general who said he didn't believe it was possible for a sitting president to be indicted. We have a Senate majority leader who previously kept intelligence about Russian hacking from the public and then this week blocked a motion to have the full report released. You don't need the Mueller report to tell you that Trump is a bad, corrupt man. He is just one part of what has gone horribly wrong with our government, and the best way to make real change is by winning an election. No one is coming to save us but us. In the end, the real Robert Mueller was inside us all along.
That's funny. It's a great point. And it's something we've all said, at least most of us have said. We are the ones that will remove Donald Trump. And it'll be November 3rd, 2020. We were the ones who won the midterm elections in record numbers. We're the ones that flipped 7 governorships from red to blue, including in states Donald Trump had won, like Michigan and Wisconsin. So we are geared up to do the right thing. And what I want to talk about, and I'll take your calls if you want to talk about the Mueller and the Barr report. There's some interesting things. I mean, we learned today it's over 300 pages long, and yet Bill Barr summarized it in 3.5 pages. That's remarkable. I can assure you whatever's in there is not helpful for Donald Trump. It might not rise to the level of a crime. It might not, but I can tell you it's not good. And that's why Bill Barr is sitting on it for at least several weeks, he said. But what I want to talk about is something that the media has not been able to cover because of the Barr report. And that is the GOP stepping up their effort with Donald Trump and Mike Pence, but the GOP around the country to impose Christian Sharia law in our nation. And I've talked about other times, this is a jihad of Christian Sharia law they're trying to impose around our country. Since January of this year, the GOP has introduced over 250 bills restricting a woman's right to choose in 41 states. That's not a mistake. In the last 3 months, they've introduced 250 bills. And a lot of these have passed and been signed into law with very little fanfare, and they should get more attention because they're scary. In fact, last Friday, the governor of Mississippi, he's a Republican, Phil Bryant, signed into law one of the most strict laws on controlling of women. And don't forget, in Mississippi, before this, it was already hard for women to have an abortion if they wanted to. There was only one abortion clinic in the entire state of Mississippi. Think about that. That's a big state. And only one, they've been able to close down the rest. And secondly, if you wanted to get an abortion in Mississippi, the law required, that's before the new law, a woman would have to wait at least 24 hours for the procedure by making the appointment. And during the time, she had to get a state-mandated counseling and ultrasound. So if you were a woman before this new law, this is what the gauntlet was they had set up. Well, the new law take effect in July, but it's now a law, bans abortion after a doctor can detect a fetal heartbeat. And that usually is 6 weeks into a pregnancy. And as most people know, some women don't even know they're pregnant in the first 6 weeks. And here's another part of it. The law does not make an exception in the case of rape or incest. And that's where they're going. The GOP is going in 2020. You'll hear Pence and Trump. And the next time there's a Republican nominee running for president, there's no longer an exception for rape or incest. At some point, there will no longer be an exception for the life of a mother, because they're going to say, well, they're all alive, so how can we choose? So if their mother happens to die, that's sad, but we shouldn't kill the baby. That's where we're going. And if you doubt this is about Christian Sharia law, let me read you a quote. And we play a game on Friday, said, guess who said it? I will read for you. And you try to tell me, who do you think said this quote on Friday? We all answer to the good Lord one day. I will say in this instance, I fought for the lives of innocent babies, even under the threat of legal action. Was that Franklin Graham? Was that Pat Robertson? Was that Jerry Falwell Jr.? Or was it the Mississippi governor, Phil Bryant? And as you might guess, that was the governor of Mississippi. When he was threatened, when he signed the law by lawsuits by NARAL and other groups saying, we're going to sue you. And they should sue them because this clearly violates Roe versus Wade. And forget the legal nuances of Roe versus Wade. What it basically says is that a woman in the first 3 months of her pregnancy has unfettered discretion to have an abortion. That's what it says. They know what it says. Their goal is to turn the Bible into American law. To me, Sharia is simply turning your religious text into law. And Sharia is Arabic, not for Islamic law. That's not what Sharia means. Sharia means path, as in path to God. And people get to God different ways. The way the evangelicals on the right get to God is turning their Bible into our law. And they're not hiding it. You have Phil Bryant's comment here. You had people in the past like Rick Santorum saying we cannot amend the Bible, but we can change the Constitution, agree with the Bible. You had Mike Huckabee say the same thing, and his daughter works in the Trump administration. And obviously, this is not Trump. Trump knows nothing about the Bible or religion. This is Mike Pence and the others he's emboldened. And this is clearly Christian Sharia law because Muslims and Jews do not believe in the same idea of abortion. For Muslims, for the first 3 months, it's not an issue. I mean, it's not like anybody wants abortion. Nobody's pro-abortion. If we can avoid having an abortion, that would be great. But things like having contraception paid for by the ACA, on the right, they don't even want that. What they want is it's a full court press. And it's not just Mississippi, folks. If that was the only state, I'd be like, well, what am I talking about? It's far more. Kentucky's governor, a week before, signed another measure, the fetal heart bill. In Georgia, they might be voting tomorrow on a fetal heartbeat bill. And then the governor there, Brian Kemp, the vote-stealing governor, who did not beat Stacey Abrams, promises to sign this bill. In Iowa, the legislature is considering a bill that would ban virtually all abortions. How? By declaring by law that human life begins at conception. Meaning, if you do anything to a fetus after conception, it's a crime. That's literally, they're making it a crime. Montana, Republicans there have a House-sponsored bill to have residents vote on a constitutional amendment to also define life at conception. Ohio, a bill banning abortion after the heartbeat of the fetus, has passed the Ohio State Senate, headed to the Republican-controlled House, and the Republican governor, Mike DeWine, has vowed to pass it. And there's other states doing the same thing. You might ask, why the rush? Why this concerted effort to impose Christian Sharia law in America? And here's the worst part. You know why? Because more of us didn't come out to vote in 2016. So Donald Trump was able to get in the White House through the help of Russia and appoint Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. And now they are ecstatic because Kennedy's gone, who they thought was a swing vote, who wouldn't side with them. And they want a test case to get rid of Roe versus Wade. And what will happen is that abortion will be then regulated by each state. So the big swath of red states, they will make it illegal. They will make it not without exceptions, except for maybe the life of a mother. They will make abortion illegal, meaning if a woman wants to have control of her own body, she has to leave that state and move to a blue state because she'll have no control of her own body. And it's remarkable to see this is not only in terms of abortion. If they could ban same-sex marriage, if there was not a Supreme Court decision, they would have been doing that. And that's also Christian Sharia law. And the fact Donald Trump and Mike Pence and his Faith Coalition have been able to ban transgender Americans from serving in our military, there's no public policy reason for that. There was no report saying they were somehow causing problems in the military or hurting our readiness. That's the opposite. That's Christian Sharia law. That's what's going on. We also see it in the Middle East with the support for Netanyahu's administration in ways we've never seen before. That's to bring Jesus back. And that's all in Revelation's part of the Bible. You can look it up, my friends. And in that, there'll be tribulations for 7 years. And in that time, 2/3 of the Jews will die, and 1/3, when Jesus comes back, will all convert to Christianity, meaning Judaism's over. And that's what they want. That's their vision of this world. And now they're empowered to try to make it happen because they think the Supreme Court's going to change it. Imagine one of the 3 Muslims in Congress, Andre Carson, Ilhan Omar, or Rashida Tlaib, saying that we have to impose laws based on the Quran. What would be the reaction? There'd be outrage. But these people are literally trying to impose laws based on the Bible. You have Phil Bryant, the governor, saying, to defend this law, we all answered to the good Lord one day. That's a theocracy. That's like what you might hear in Saudi Arabia, but from an extreme Muslim point of view, in imposing laws to oppress women. But they're doing it here in the United States of America. So, and what kills me is they want to impose the Bible, but not the good parts. They want to impose the parts that can oppress people, that can tell women what they can do with their bodies. They won't impose like Matthew 25:35, which says, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me." They don't believe in that. Democrats believe in that. Democrats are far more Christian than the Republicans are. That's no doubt. We are the party who wants to make sure people who are hungry have food, who don't have health care can be cared for. If you can't have a place to live, we're going to help you. The Republicans don't believe in the good parts of the Bible, only the oppressive parts of the Bible. And it's the same reason why Donald Trump gets support from evangelicals when he's advocating in his budget that just came out, we covered it, billions of dollars in cuts in Medicare, and in food stamps, in Medicaid, things that target the most vulnerable in our nation. And you would think Republican evangelicals who are all about Jesus would be outraged. Jesus would say, take care of those most in need. Look at Matthew 25:35, "For I was hungry and gave me something to eat." No, it's the opposite. They don't believe in that. In fact, they are so cruel. Their version of Christianity is so perverted, and they've hijacked it, that literally, as we sit here, the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, under Trump, is defending cutting $17 million. That's all because of the massive tax cut for corporations. That we all said he's going to cut the tax cut for the corporations. It's not going to create jobs. It's not going to cause big increase in wages. All that's come true. And now he's going to cut the safety net for Medicare, Medicaid, even Social Security, and the Special Olympics. Forget Jesus. Christianity has nothing to do with this. There's another, if you believe in religion, there's another deity, sort of a evil red horned one that would be happy about being mean to those who are needy. Where does this end? If we allow them to impose Christian Sharia law, does it just end with oppression of women and what they can do with their bodies and demonizing and trying to discriminate against transgender Americans who want to serve in our military? Does it go further? In Timothy 2:11, it says a woman should learn in quietness and full submission. Is that next? Are we going to have Republicans say women should not be speaking anymore? You should learn in quietness and full submission. It says in that part of Timothy, that's New Testament, not Old Testament, New Testament, that a woman should not teach a man. Is that next? Will they enforce that? Or Franklin Graham has said, and he's part of Trump's Faith Council, he believes in every word of the Old Testament and the New Testament. That's what he said. So Leviticus, it says, if a man commits adultery with another man's wife, with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress are to be put to death. Is that next? It says, if you work on the Sabbath, you shall be put to death. Is that next? Where does it end? Once you unleash the gate of Christian Sharia law in this country, I don't know where the ending is, but we know it's controlling all of us. We know that other faiths, minority faiths, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, we are at best tolerated by the Christian right. In the case of Muslims, we are demonized and trying to be banned, and they're all on board with it. So this is where we are. What's next? And I understand the media's got to cover Mueller and Barr, but last Friday, we had a law signed in Mississippi, the most extreme anti-woman law in the history of this nation. It literally is, not exaggeration. No press. And I got it because the Mueller report findings were about to come out. Today, there might actually be a vote in the Georgia legislature today, if not, it'll be tomorrow, to impose in Georgia the same horrible laws. And there's countless cases around the country, and it's not getting covered. I want Americans to know how extreme the Republican Party is. They want to take your health care away. They don't want to help the most vulnerable, but they want to impose the most oppressive parts of the Bible in the name of Christianity. These are people who hate for Jesus. Hating for Jesus is the most un-Jesus thing you could do. And if you say, well, I'm Muslim, how do I know about Jesus? First of all, I went to Catholic school because my mom's Catholic, so I was raised both Christian and Muslim. Second, as a Muslim, Jesus is really important to Muslims. He's a big part of our text. We know, we love Jesus. Jesus is a prophet. So I'm familiar with his teachings. This is not his teachings at all. So I don't know. It just creeps up. This creeping Christian Sharia law, and our media does not cover it. Instead, they have people like Steve Bannon on CNN last night. I was very upset. I tweeted about it. Not that they're going to listen, even though I do write for CNN. You're going to have Steve Bannon on? He's not in the White House. They have him on like he's a respected political pundit. The man ran a website that was white supremacists, one of their favorite places, which spewed anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant garbage, as well as definitely ginning up fears of African Americans and demonizing Black Lives Matter. And he's on with Anderson Cooper like he's a diplomat. They don't even call out his past. George Papadopoulos is all over MSNBC the last 2 days. What is going on with our cable news? And instead, they don't cover an issue like this. I love covering issues that affect people's lives. That's why we talked healthcare yesterday for a big part of the show. This affects people's lives. This is more important than will we get the Barr report tomorrow or in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. When we get it, we are going to cover it. Believe me. But stop speculating cable news and talk about issues that affect people's lives. And this is one of them. So let's take a break. I want to hear from you. We've got a great show, a lot of great guests tonight. We're filled with David K. Johnson, who everyone loves in the third hour. Next hour, Jeff Caskey will be here. He's the father of Cameron Caskey, one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting, to talk about his work and also talk about the 2 suicides of Parkland students in the last week. They were survivors of the shooting, and they took their own lives in the last week. Talk about that and a lot more with Jeff. So let's take a break, though. Come back. I want to hear from you. 866-997-4748. When will the media use the terms Christian Sharia law to wake our fellow Americans up to the threat facing us? It might be too late when they do, but we all have to use that term. Christian Sharia law. That's what they want. We have to stop it. Be right back.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Voting is the most important civil right of our era because the right to vote preserves all other rights. It's not